Okay.
I call to order the meeting for the Township of North Huron for the council meeting for today. Confirmation of the agenda that the council of the Township of North Huron accept the agenda for the April 6, 2020 council meeting as presented. We're going to do a complete set of recorded votes. Do you want to start with this one, Carson, or the next one?
Yep. So if you want to get a mover and a seconder for that, and then I'll call the recorded.
Do I have a mover? Oh, and by the way, if you're going to move something, put your hand up in front of your face like this, and then I'll know. And if you have a question, please put your hand up in front of your face like this, and then I'll know that you want to speak or speak. So do I have a mover? I have Anita, seconder. I have Chris. And I have a lot of screens up, so leave your hand there if you don't mind for a few seconds.
So like Bernie said, this will be a recorded vote. So Deputy Reeve Sight. Councillor Falconer.
Yes.
Councillor Heffer.
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson. Councillor Palmer.
Yes.
Councillor McBurney.
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So the vote to confirm the agenda carries 7-0.
Thank you. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Anyone have disclosure? Carson, again, if I don't notice somebody, it's only because I only have 4 of them on my screen right now.
Reeve Bailey, Trevor here.
Yes.
I'm just going to disclose on the bills and accounts. So on the bills and accounts, there's a check 505255 in the name of Warden Upgrove Consulting. I previously declared this conflict at prior meetings, but I'm just letting the council and the ratepayers know that I am an employee of Warden Upgrove, so I will not be moving on as it relates to the bills and accounts.
Thank you. Anyone else? Not hearing anybody. We'll move on. We're going to go to point 4.1, and that's urgent business. And I'm going to hand it over to Carson now. We're going to change things up a little bit. Carson's going to be doing a lot more speaking than myself. We believe it's going to just be easier to follow. Go ahead, Carson. Oh, did you want to move her in a second?
Nope, it's okay. Thank you, Your Worship. So on March 20th, the Ontario government passed the Municipal Emergency Act, as council is aware. And basically this gave council the ability to allow council, board, or committee meetings to be held electronically during state of emergencies that were declared either by the local head of council or the province. And to do this, municipalities must amend their procedure bylaw to allow for electronic meetings. So at the emergency special council meeting held on March 24th, council passed a motion directing staff to prepare an amendment to the procedure bylaw to allow it to be passed on the April 6th meeting to allow for electronic participation. So basically the purpose of this report is to present that requested amendment. And the reason we have this urgent business is so this amendment and the bylaw will have to be passed in order to continue on with the business of the municipality through electronic means. So the draft bylaw that was attached to the report contains a list of amendments to be made to the procedure bylaw. And the amendment, when we designed it, we amended so that it's not specifically dealing just with the COVID-19 situation, but any declared state of emergency. Basically, the bylaw allows members of council, boards, or committees to participate in both open or closed session meetings through electronic means and be counted as quorum. And the key point to this is it is only during a state of emergency declared provincially or locally. But the other thing that I just wanted to point out is that while this procedure bylaw amendment, boards and committee members possess the ability to meet electronically, we added in the amendment that participation by a member of a local board or committee by electronic means shall be permitted unless a resolution of council is passed to suspend those committee or board meetings during the emergency. So the reason we did this is if council did not want the boards and committees meeting due to the type of emergency, they can revoke that ability. So at the emergency special council meeting on March 24th, council did pass a motion to suspend committee and board meetings until further notice. So if there was a point in the COVID-19 situation where council wanted to allow the committees and boards to continue to meet again, basically what council would just need to do is pass a resolution of council saying that these certain boards are able to meet again as of a set date, kind of thing. Overall, the changes, if as you'll have seen in the report, 4 different definitions were added: one for electronic meeting, one for electronic means, one for electronic participation, and one for an emergency. These are pretty standard definitions that we pulled from municipalities. And the other amendment to the procedure bylaw is we added a new subsection within the meeting section to deal with specifically with electronic meetings declared during an emergency. And basically, this is the section of our procedure bylaw which would govern the calling and proceedings for electronic meetings that occur during an emergency. And basically, the way we divided it can be broken down into 4 different subsections. One, dealing with extent, which is the extent to which electronic meetings during an emergency apply. So, for example, for what types of meetings and whether members participate in quorum.
Has joined the meeting.
The second one is the process. So, for example, what is the process that is to be followed for electronic meetings to ensure that they run efficiently? Third is voting. So, how voting is to be conducted during emergency circumstances where meetings are required to be held electronically. And then 4th is member conduct, and this is just general member conduct and behavior that helps electronic meetings run smoothly. When we get to the financial impact section of the report, the only financial impact is that basically the software we're using right now, Cisco WebEx meetings, the fee is $30.45 a month, which we are able to cancel at any time when the state of emergency is repealed. And basically, we're required to purchase a system beyond what is free because any free system, it caps at 40-minute length meetings, which is obviously not ideal for council meetings, and it doesn't have the ability to record to allow the public to better stay up to date. So I guess if there's any questions on that, I can answer them now. If not, I have a motion there that I could read for the recorded vote.
So I'm going to ask for a mover and a seconder to start with on this. Are we doing 4.1 and 4.2 together because you explained them together, or separately?
There's through your worship. So there's 2 different motions. So we'll pass. We'll do each of them separately.
Okay, thank you. So for 4.1, do I have a mover? And again, I can't see the full screen. Would somebody like to move this?
I move it with comments.
Okay, I have Chris first and Anita second. Now, can we have questions and comments on this, starting with Chris?
Okay, I have 2 through you, Reeve. Through part 1, regarding the definitions, emergency, should it not include the federal government as well? Because they could easily call an emergency and then we maybe follow through or maybe not. It depends on the issue.
Carson, did you want to answer that?
Through your worship. So the township has the ability to hold electronic meetings under emergency circumstances as defined by that definition. So the way the Municipal Act was amended, which is provincial legislation, is based on that definition there.
Okay, and the other one is right to the policy. Can we go there? It's important for everyone to read it.
You want it displayed, Chris? Is that what you're asking?
Draft. I think people should go back to number 2 of the bylaw draft. And it's 5.11.2, Section A. Okay. I have an issue with A, where we as counselors are expected to request to enter the meeting, and I do not agree with that at all. Unless you've got a really good reason for that, I will not. I'm expected to attend meetings of any form. That's what I was elected for, and we all were. So, you know, to do it 2 days ahead of time, like it just threw me right off. And if I missed the 2 days and I was on the last day, then I would basically pray to get on, and I had to be good weather or something, or bad weather or something, some reason. It just did not make sense to me. I did not like the whole thing, and I would recommend to just get rid of it. Unless it's reworded in a kinder, more intentional way.
Through you, your worship, so I can explain that. That goes back to the piece of, we didn't develop this just for the COVID-19 situation. So, for example, the emergency might be declared for a portion of the municipality, right? And it is still possible that that council could meet in the council chambers, but based on the type of emergency, a councillor might feel that it's beneficial for them to join the meeting through electronic participation. So that's kind of more when it would apply. For situations like this, where we know the entire meeting is going to be electronic participation, that wouldn't apply at all. That's just something that other municipalities as well have put in to make sure that in certain circumstances where there might only be one individual calling in, that basically there's enough time for staff to develop a process to put this back in place, right? So once COVID-19 is over, the expectation is that we wouldn't be paying for the Cisco WebEx meetings again. So if we had to put something in place to allow someone to participate electronically, basically this kind of gives us a heads up. And like we added in there, unanticipated circumstances as well. So it's not a hard deadline. But basically this, we envisioned this as just almost like an email saying, hey, due to the state of emergency affecting my ward, I'm thinking about electronic participation during this meeting. Can you set something up, kind of thing? It's almost just like a notice, so that we have a heads up. It's not to be as stringent as it came off as.
Yeah, I don't like the wording. What you just said is much better. I understand what you're saying, but you know, I don't like the wording as such. But
Is there anyone else that would like to comment on this? If so, okay, go ahead, Paul.
Yes, I think it was G I've written down on the same paragraph there. We can speak more than once if something comes to our mind a bit later, right? It says you're going to go around and canvass the speakers, the members, and we can speak a second time, right?
I'm not going to change anything if that's what you're asking. I'll let everybody speak as long as they like.
Through you, your worship. So yeah, basically that section just means that Reeve Bailey will make an effort to ensure everyone has gotten a chance to talk, right? Kind of like he does already in council meetings, just to ensure no one's missed. It does not by any means mean that someone can only talk once.
Okay, thank you.
Guys, if I don't, again, I'm scrolling back and forth here to find you as your pictures come up. So if you want to speak out, so I know you want to speak on a subject, because I have to keep scrolling to have a look at everybody. Okay, so we have a mover. Do we have any other questions or comments? Concerns? Not seeing any. We're going to have a roll call now for decision time. Go ahead, Carson. Can't hear you, Carson. There you go.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Your Worship. So this will be another recorded vote, and the motion on the floor is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the report of the clerk dated April 6, 2020 regarding electronic participation during declared emergencies for information purposes, and further that council approves an amendment to the procedure bylaw to allow council to allow the use of electronic participation during emergencies declared locally or provincially, permit members to participate electronically in both open and closed session meetings during emergencies declared locally or provincially, permit members participating electronically to count towards quorum during emergencies declared locally or provincially, and to delegate certain actions to staff to ensure operational continuity in the event that council cannot meet in person during emergencies declared locally or provincially. And further, that council deems the adoption of bylaw number 33, 2020, being a bylaw to amend 116, 2017, being the procedure bylaw, to be a time-sensitive matter and approves an exception to section 19.1 of the procedure bylaw to allow bylaw number 33-2020 to be passed at the April 6, 2020 regular council meeting. So we have a mover and seconder on that already. So Councillor Falconer,
Agree.
Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson, Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sipe,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that vote carries 7-0.
Okay, let's move on now to 4.2, bylaw number 33-2020, and I'm going to again hand it over to Carson to speak to, and then we'll ask for a mover.
Through your worship. So that is the bylaw that goes along with the report. We pulled it earlier in the agenda so that we could pass this bylaw and continue with the rest of the business of the municipality. So Reeve Bailey, if you want to ask for a mover and a seconder, and then I can read the motion there.
Do I have a mover and seconder? Can't get my screen to move now. There we go. Do I have a mover and seconder?
I would move it.
I have Kevin moving, seconding. I have Trevor seconding. Hold a recorded vote now.
So the motion on the floor is that bylaw 33-2020, being a bylaw to amend the procedure bylaw, be introduced, read a first, second, third, and final time, signed by the Reeve clerk, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. As Reeve Bailey said, this will be a recorded vote. So Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson, Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sipe,
Yes.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that vote carries 7-0.
Before we go any farther, because of what I'm finding happening on my screen where I can't see you all, and we'll see if we can make adjustments another time. I'm just going to get you, if you want a motion to pass, be part of the first or second mover of the motion, just speak up and we'll recognize your name. I think that would be fair to everybody because I'm seeing the same 4 people on the screen all the time, and that's leaving other ones out. So just speak up. Okay, we're going to go down to public comments, opportunity for members of the public to speak to an item of business that's on the agenda. You have 2 minutes, and we're doing it by phone in tonight. So Carson, do we have any?
Through your worship. So there's someone on the line. So I guess if they wanted to speak to anything.
Hello?
So not hearing anything. So I guess we can.
Me? It's Denny, so I'm just here to listen.
Danny's just here to listen. We're good with that. So there's no other phone calls then?
That's everyone.
Okay, thank you, Denny. Okay. We're going to go down to consent agenda. Number 6, that the Council of Township of North Huron hereby adopts consent agendas 6.1.1 to 6.1 further, and further that the Council of Township of North Huron hereby receives consent items 6.1.5 and 6.1.3, 6.3.1 for information purposes. Do I have a mover? Paul, seconder? Rick, questions and comments or concerns?
Comment?
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, this is regarding the zoning change for AG4. Reeve Bailey, could you explain how that one went? I know there seemed to be a bit of a confusing critter, but what's coming down the pipe then?
Is this the one to do with the farming?
Yeah, and then changing it to rural,
Yeah.
to get rid of animals, that's what she's all about, and to change it to rural residential.
So this is going back, again, it's gone back to the staff to revisit one more time at the county level. But I can pretty well tell you from what my understanding is, it will be coming before each and every council, municipal council, to make their own decisions. So it is, again, it's gone back for more review from my understanding, because there were a few of us spoke out about a few changes we'd like yet.
Okay.
Anyone else on anything in there? Not seeing any. I believe I have a mover for that. And a seconder. So I'm going to call. Go ahead.
So through your worship, so this will be another recorded vote. So Councillor Van Hitterson, Councillor Van Hitterson,
Yes, sorry, I on mute.
We all do that.
Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Syke,
I'm abstaining because of the conflict of interest.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So the vote carries 6-1 with the one being an abstention.
Thank you. We're going to move on now to reports. 8.1.1, the clerk's department, the tender for the rental, and I believe Carson, I think you were going to speak to that, were you not? Or was Sean?
Through your worship, that'll be me.
Okay, so Carson's going to speak to it, and then we'll ask for a mover and a seconder.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, as council's aware, at the February 18th, 2020 regular council meeting, council considered the final engineer's report for drainage improvements under Section 78 of the Drainage Act, and this was for the Rintoul municipal drains. Following a presentation of the engineer's report by Dietrich Engineering, council passed two motions. One of those was to adopt the engineer's report, and the other one was to issue the tender for the drainage works. The quarter revision was held on March 19th, 2020 at 10 a.m. And since this was a boundary drain, North Huron had Councillor Van Hitterson and Councillor Palmer serving as the quarter revision for North Huron, and Councillor Forrester served for Ashfield Colwell Walnut. And notice of the sitting of the quarter revision was sent out on February 24th, and no appeals were received by the March 9th deadline. No late or verbal appeals were received either. The other piece to this, so in accordance with council's direction, the project was tendered and the tenders officially closed on Tuesday, March 17th. In all, 3 bids were received. The bids were reviewed by Dietrich Engineering, and after review, Dietrich Engineering has recommended that the Rintoul Municipal Drains 2020 work be awarded to AG Hayter Contracting in the amount of $367,714 plus HST. And so AG Hayter Contracting Limited's bid price of $367,714 came in $70,242,000 lower than the engineer's estimate. And the one thing that's just important to note about this is that the notice of the decision of the Court of Revision was sent out to the landowners on March 19th following the meeting. And under the Drainage Act, all decisions made by the court can be appealed to the Agriculture, Food, and Rural Affairs Tribunal within 21 days of that decision of the Court of Revision. So the end of this appeal period is April 9th. And then after that 21-day appeal period has ended, council can give third reading of the bylaw to authorize the work. So basically, right now, staff are looking for a motion to award the drainage works subject to the third reading of that bylaw. And so that bylaw should be coming back on the April 21st meeting.
Thank you, Carson. Do I have a mover and a seconder?
I'll move that.
Okay, I have Kevin moving it and Anita seconding it. I'm going to throw it out to questions and comments. Before I do, I just got a couple myself. ACW is paying for part, like they're funding part of this too from their, and what's their attitude towards this, considering the dilemma that we find ourselves in with the coronavirus? Are they going ahead with this project, or is there something they may want to hold back on?
Through your worship. So the drainage work is actually largely paid by the landowners themselves, right? So anyone in that drainage basin pays for their portion of the assessment. At the Court of Revision, the court made the decision to accept the assessment as presented in the engineer's report, and so the those landowners will be assessed based on their assessment into the overall project. And then most drainage work is partly funded through OMAFRA as well. So each of the landowners who would be paying in usually receive a portion of that covered from OMAFRA.
Thank you kindly. Any other questions or comments from council? Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, one thing, Reeve. I was just wondering through you, because of the situation, I guess, like, Hayter doesn't know they're getting it yet, but I think it'd be important to see or to hear what their feeling is about starting the work. If they wanted to delay it, it'd be nice to know what they're thinking.
Good thought. This, my understanding, this is only first and second. We're moving tonight, so that would give the staff time to follow up on Chris's question.
Through your worship. So council already gave first and second reading to the bylaw on the February 18th meeting, I believe it was. So the motion tonight is just to award the work to AG Hayter, who is the lowest bidder. And basically what that allows us to do is give the deposit checks for the tender back to the other bidders, which we're required to do within a certain amount of time. But we could definitely, as Councillor Palmer inquired into, we can definitely reach out to AG Hayter to make sure they're still planning on going ahead with the work. When we had talked to them last, they did not give any indication that they wouldn't be going forward. I know construction is still allowed to go ahead for critical infrastructure. So whether this is considered as that, I'm not entirely sure at this time, but we could definitely get an opinion.
Thank you. Other questions or comments, concerns? Just speak up if you do. Again, my screen isn't long enough. I'm not hearing any, so Carson will do the roll call.
Thank you, Worship. So the motion on the floor is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the report of the clerk dated April 6, 2020 regarding tender results for the Rintoul Municipal Drains 2020 for information purposes. And further, that Council hereby award the contract on the Rintoul Municipal Drains 2020 to AG Hayter Contracting Limited in the amount of $367,714 plus HST, subject to the third and final reading of bylaw 19-2020 being a bylaw to provide for a drainage works in the Township of North Huron and Asheville, Colborne, Wawanash in Huron County. So, Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
You might be muted.
Councillor McBurney, Deputy Reeve Syke,
Yes.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson, and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So the vote carries 7-0.
Thank you. We'll move on to 8.2, finances. Donna's going to speak to 8.2.1. She's going to speak to a few of them here in a row. So Donna, I'm going to hand it over to you first to have let us know what's going on.
Thank you, Reeve Bailey. So I'm just trying to get my screen set up here to see if I can get my sheets to come up on the screen. There. Carson, can you see the first spreadsheet, the working reserve spreadsheet?
Yep, it's up for me at least, Donna.
Up for me.
Okay, perfect. So thank you, Council. So in the agenda package, there was 2 reserve listings, your working reserve listing and then your total 2019 reserve listing, of which also included that the working reserve. So this report is for information purposes, and at year end, as part of the final audit process, there were 3 additional amounts available to be transferred to reserves as outlined in the report. So the first one was for economic development. We had the balance of the SLED grant come in from the County of Huron, and that was an economic development initiative taken out in 2019. And we received more funding than anticipated. So it allowed for the transfer of $4,265 into a future reserve for some type of economic development and possibly the continuation of the SLED grant. The second one was through the before and after program at the Maitland campus. When all the final payments and et cetera were posted, they had a surplus of about $35,000. So we wanted to transfer that into reserves for all the upcoming daycare initiatives that we have in the works. And the last one is to finish off our year end surplus was $26,969.41. And we transfer that into our taxation stabilization reserve each year in order to mitigate future taxes if necessary. So speaking to the working reserve, the total there is $2,929,564.53. And the working reserve is basically the way that we go about saving for some special projects. So in these amounts that are listed on your working reserve, we also use this account to borrow from within, internal borrowing. So as you would see in there, we've borrowed from this reserve $198,822 is the balance that we owe ourselves for the plow truck. We just borrowed for the street light loan project, and the balance owing there is $323,520.34. And then, of course, this year we had to borrow for the compactor equipment at the landfill, and that was $217,052. So a project that we've been working on, and actually the department heads, I sent this out to them on Friday. And so we are in the process of sorting these reserves into asset management categories. And so it won't change the total, but what we would like to do is to develop a reserve policy and reclassify these reserves into categories that we feel pertain to asset management with a few exceptions to some of the other projects that we know that we have on the go. And we would like to bring that back to you at a later date. But again, it doesn't change the amounts that you're looking at, or it doesn't change anything. Just as I said, reclassification so that we don't have so many individual projects that we've been saving for. So on the, so that's a working reserve, which is part of our total reserve listing. And our total reserve listing is $14,987,028.29. Now, that sounds like a lot of money, but it is nowhere near what we require for some of our asset management initiatives. As you know, our assets, our replacement cost of our assets is $214 million. And with some of the big projects that we're looking at, such as the standpipe at $3.4 million and Carling Terrace, a street construction project like that costs $1.6 million, and Hutton Heights at $1.8 million. It doesn't take long to go through a lot of your reserves for those types of projects, if that's how we end up funding them. We're still hoping for some grant money, although, however, we won't know how this year's going to turn out now. But we do have to plan for the future, and as I said, asset management is our main concern. So some of our reserves are legislated. We have a number such as the gas tax reserve, the OSIF formula-based reserve, cash in lieu of parkland, and the building code, which these reserves are all listed on the second sheet, which I'm going to just turn to now. And Carson, can you see that clearly?
Yep, we can see it, Donna.
Okay, thank you. And it is small print. So as we said, that these are the reserves. These are our total reserves, and they're divided into the two categories. One is our, the first round is the first section at the top is reserves for various items, including the working reserve. The second section is the two in particular that have to be set aside for legislative purposes, and then water and sewer, which we separate out because of their user funded and user pay status. So again, we have been working on our reserves and building our reserves, but we weren't able to do much with it this year. And who knows, by the time the end of this year rolls around, you know, what sort of money we may end up having to take out of reserves. So also I wanted to note that in our tax stabilization reserve, we have about $680,000 there. We use $338,066 of that each year as our accumulated surplus. And that allows us to raise that much less on taxation. So we use that each year, and luckily we're able to still add to it small amounts. And as I said, that reserve will be available for future use. So if anyone has any questions, would you be pleased to answer them? And if you want to, as I said, we have both a working reserve, which again is a method that we use to usually to save up for various projects. And any of these reserves, except for the legislated ones, would be, as things happen, I mean, it simply is a motion of council to move money in and out of these reserves. And again, to reiterate, our goal this year is to present you with a reserve policy and some dedicated amounts that we would like to set aside and to recategorize into asset management grouping. So that's our goal for this year with the reserves as we know today.
Questions or comments, concerns? And again, just speak up because I'm not seeing all the screens. I'm going to maybe start it then. I'm going to start it with considering the coronavirus and the effect it's having on us all, and I've been approached by through email, personal contact, and some of the counselors. We have a situation where we've set this up before this this dilemma came along, and we're going 100 miles an hour. But the problem is, some people may not be able to pay the water bill, and some people may not be able to pay the tax bill. So some of the questions I'm getting is, can we somehow use some of our reserves to forgive taxes or forgive water bills? On the water, we were thinking along the lines of, I believe, Donna, we just sent the bill out and the money's coming in for the last ones. But if this coronavirus continues to go on, as I believe it will, for over a month, but if it continues longer than that, would we, as a township, be in a position to forgive the water, the costing to the customer for the water, or especially the reserves, the money we're asking for reserves? Can we just, as a council, have a look at that and say, yes, we can make that change? The concern I'm having from councilors is that if we pass this, it is in stone. So just to verify one last time that we can do whatever we want with reserves in order to make our municipality as a whole a more livable place under the circumstances we find ourselves in.
Thank you, Reeve Bailey. At this moment, it is absolutely too soon to make any of those types of decisions. I've been meeting weekly with other colleagues through, municipal finance officers associations, clerks and treasurers associations, tax associations, and really they've all concluded that it's just too soon to know today. So most of the recommendations are that we need to wait 3 months before we make any of these slashing changes. So we will be discussing options. What you have in front of you here is your reserves listings, which is not at this moment is not something that we really need to change. But the point to make is that depending, as we revisit this weekly, monthly, as we work our way through this situation, it's to know that you do have some money here that, depending on what the outcomes are, which we don't know at this time, we may be able to access some of these reserves to mitigate any of these long-term situations. But again, I'm at this very day, it's too soon to make any of those decisions in my recommendation. And over the next month and fall of the month following that, we'll certainly be reviewing the situation. But for right now, those are not solutions that we can see an end to right at this moment.
Totally agree with you. Thank you for that. Anyone else have any questions, concerns, comments?
Through you, Reeve.
Yep.
Councillor Faulkner, to Donna. The recent changes from the government as of them backing up wages to 75%, does the municipality qualify for that? Because it's the same thing that we were doing with our employees. So
no, unfortunately, it's been made very clear that the township municipal governments do not qualify for that 75% wage subsidy. And for us, considering that a lot of some of the criteria was that you had to be able to demonstrate that you were losing 30% of your revenues. And due to the fact that some of our revenues come from grants and taxation and some of those types of things, we certainly wouldn't have met the 30%, this quickly at any rate. But having said that, they're coming out with programs, the information's coming out daily. And so when you have mentioned that wage subsidy program, I certainly hope that some of our local businesses will be able to take advantage of that. And I know some companies just found out today that they were eligible for that. So it is good news, and it means then that the staff aren't laid off. They're kept on. and not going through the EI system. So I do hope that our local businesses do look into that as we move forward.
Thanks, Don. I'd like to just get us back on the fact that we're just talking about reserves at this point. Yeah, just to keep us on track, okay? I do understand, Kevin, that we need to have that conversation, but it's for a different part of the meeting or a different time. Okay, so dealing with the reserves. Anyone else? Not seeing or hearing anybody? I'm going to call the motion.
Through your worship, so you need a mover and seconder still.
Yep. Well, that's what I was trying to say. Sorry. So can I have a mover and a seconder? And again, just speak up. It's easier. Mover. Paul moves.
Chris,
Chris seconds.
So the motion on the floor is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the 2019 Total Reserves and Working Reserves Report dated April 6, 2020 as presented by the Director of Finance, and further that the Council of the Township of North Huron approves the additional transfers to reserves as listed in the report in the amount of $66,234.41. So Councillor McBurney? Councillor McBurney? Your mic's
Muted.
muted.
You're still muted, Rick. There you go.
Deputy Reeve Sype? Deputy Reeve Sype?
Trevor, you're muted.
Okay, we'll move on to Councillor Falconer.
Yes.
Councillor Heffer.
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson. Councillor Palmer.
yes.
Councillor or Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So last call, Deputy Reeve Sype.
Trevor, muted. You're still muted, Trev. Got a yes. I see Trevor's got a yes.
Yeah, so Deputy Reeve Sype voted yes in the chat. So the vote carries 7-0.
Thank you kindly. 8.2.1, or 2.2, sorry. Again, we're going to have Donna speak to this. This is our budget. And then we'll ask for a motion. Go ahead, Donna.
Okay, thank you. So I have a requesting from Trevor and one other participant about an annotation request. Do you want me to approve that before I get started?
What request is that?
It's just come up on my screen. I'm going to hit decline and see if it moves forward.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that would be.
Okay, we're going to move forward then from the beginning on. And is the slideshow clear there, Carson?
We can't see your slideshow yet, no.
Okay, so it's up on.
Unshare your content and then try going in again.
So. Looks like it, you see it. I'll stop sharing.
I've got you back on, Donna.
Yeah, and then try it again.
There you go.
Okay, perfect. It's working from my end. I'm going to try the slideshow to see if that's going to work. Is that working, Carson?
Yep, it's working.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll carry on. I just wanted to start by saying that staff and council of the Township of North Huron are extremely concerned about the financial impacts of COVID-19 situation on the 2020 budget. So this is a very difficult situation, and the following list of action items that we can implement to mitigate and monitor the situation as we move forward. As we just discussed, the impacts are not known at this time, and staff continues to network with other municipalities and related organizations to gather and share information. There have been a number of announcements about various programs, like we just previously mentioned, the wage subsidy program. And although the township doesn't qualify, we hope that others can take an advantage of that. We have to maintain a balance between moving the township's business forward and minimizing spending for 2020. Council has delayed adding penalty to the March tax installment and the March water bills till May 1st for those who did not pay, and this will be reevaluated at future meetings. So in addition to the recommendations that were outlined in your report that was part of the agenda, we as staff would like to put forward the following motion to be added as a second motion if council does agree to move forward with the budget. And so Carson, would you mind reading the proposed motion?
Yep, so through you, your worship. So the first motion is that the council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the 2020 budget report from the Director of Finance dated April 6, 2020 for information purposes, and further that the council of the Township of North Huron adopts the 2020 budget as presented, and further that the council of the Township of North Huron adopts the Wingham BIA budget in the amount of $55,600 with a levy of $28,500, and the Blythe BIA budget in the amount of $15,400 with a levy of $9,700. And further that the council of the Township of North Huron adopts a minimum levy for the Blythe BIA in the amount of $173.13 and a maximum levy of $399.25, both of which will be adjusted annually by the Ontario Consumer Price Index as published by Statistics Canada for the immediately preceding calendar year. And further that the cost of living allowance and applicable grid movements be retroactive to January 1st, 2020. And further that the council deems the adoption of bylaw 31-2020 being a bylaw for the purposes of levying and collecting rates for various purposes to be a time-sensitive matter, and approves an exception to section 19.1 of the procedure bylaw to allow bylaw 31-2020 to be passed at the April 6, 2020 regular council meeting. Donna, did you want me to read the second one as well?
Yes, please.
So the second one that Donna was just speaking to reads that the council of the Township of North Huron, subsequent to the passing of the 2020 budget and in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, direct staff to 1, mitigate the impacts to the 2020 budget wherever possible, 2, evaluate and prioritize purchases and projects to be completed in 2020, and 3, implement increased monitoring of the year-to-date numbers.
Okay, thank you, Carson. So in speaking with senior management, and we had some meetings last week, and along with, I know that some councillors have concerns, as does staff and our ratepayers. So we want to make sure that we can do whatever we can as we move forward in 2020 to be able to mitigate the impacts, as I've said before, which we don't fully know at this point, but be able to do whatever we can through 2020 and beyond to be able to have our budget process work out as reasonably as possible throughout the year. So I'm going to go through the presentation and then we'll open it up for discussion. So there we go. So in the this is the budget summary. This budget summary was, we looked at it last meeting on March the 13th, and it just gives you a bit of an overview of the whole budget. So actually, Carson, I'm going to, if I can, I'm going to pick, this presentation is actually not the presentation that I want. So I'm just going to try to stop sharing for a second and grab my other, I'm going to see if I can get my other PowerPoint presentation pulled up, and I apologize for that. I may not be able to at this point. Bear with me for a moment, please. Here we are. Pardon me. See if I can get this to work. No, I can't. Okay, so I'm going to move ahead with this presentation. I'm not sure what happened to the presentation that I had up there. Anyway, we're going to move forward with this presentation, and I may have to do a bit of extra speaking to work through this. So anyway, the budget summary, we had looked at.
So Donna, just before you start there, did you want to put up the other presentation slideshow again or no?
Yes.
Donna, one question for you too is, do you want the council to stop you and ask questions as we're moving along, or wait till the end?
It's fine with me, whatever you would like to do. I'm going to try, sorry, I'm just going to try one more time to get the presentation that I was looking for. I'm not sure what happened to that, and I apologize. But I'm going to try to see if I can get this up one more time here. Technology's great, but not when you're under the gun.
Take your time, girl.
Okay, thank you. See if it comes up. All right, we're going to go with this presentation, and I'll do some speaking about it. So there's some extra slides that are in your package, actually, Council. Do you have your iPads with you with the actual presentation that was included on the agenda?
Yes.
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 Mm-hmm.
That may be the easier way to go about it, is to go through those slides. If I stop sharing this, then I can go back. Carson, do you know if I log into to the first meeting you sent out the other day, whether or not I can this council agenda meeting, whether they can follow me through there?
Are you looking for your budget presentation that was sent out with the agenda package?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so if you just go to eScribe or to anywhere where the agenda package is posted and pull that up on your screen and share that instead, right? If that'll be the right one you're looking for.
Yes. And so I have it up on my screen, but it still won't let me pull it. I have it up from the website and it won't let me pull it up.
You'll have to click on the attachment itself.
Yeah, it's not working. Can you pull it up on your end, Carson?
I'm looking into that right now. Just whether I'll be able to do minutes at the same time.
Okay, well, I'll do all the speaking to it if you can get it to. I don't know why it won't. Yeah, all that it's giving me from the website is
There, it should be up on everyone's screens now.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just gonna move. I'm not gonna try to do anything with it except for just to move through it. We don't want to jinx anything. Okay, so sorry about that, everyone. So on the screen we have now the budget process. So as you know, the budget becomes more and more difficult each year, and 2020 is definitely going to be our most difficult year yet. So the budget process started last year. Implementation is passing the budget and moving forward where possible. The monitoring is going to be, we're going to certainly be requiring much more monitoring in 2020. And then for evaluation, then we're going to have to plan for the future on where 2020 ends up for us. So on to the next screen, the next slide. Can you move the next slide, Carson? So what do we spend your money on? I'm not going to go through all these items, but basically for a municipality of our size, we do know that we have a lot to look after. And some of the items on this slide do give us the wide range of and the many things that we look after here in North Huron. So in the next slide, why are taxes so high? We've had some discussions about this on quite a regular basis, and we know that we offer a wide range of facilities and programs and services usually offered by a much larger municipality. We have low overall taxable assessment, and we have been at the lowest in the county. We have low average assessment on our older homes, and that is changing somewhat due to the market price and the number of sales. And of course, the farm prices, which have had a huge impact on the farm assessments. We also know we have a low population base, and our geography works against us in some respects, in that we are a long, narrow strip, and we provide duplicate services in more than one ward. So as you know, as an example, we have 2 fire stations, 2 libraries, 3 public works shed, etc. So if we move on to the next slide, then it does show our property sales. So we do continue to monitor property sales, and properties were still selling up until all of this happened. I'm not sure what effect it's going to have as we move forward on the number of properties sold. But as you can see from the numbers on this sheet, that we had 145 properties sell in 2019 compared to 147 in 2018, and but the 145 were worth 41 million, where in 2018 the 147 properties were worth 32 million. Now there is various differences, but it does show a trend that we're seeing the higher market prices on the sales. So if we move on to the next slide with our 2020 end results. So our overall spending increase was 2.97%, and that equated to $177,351.53. Our total expenses were $17,769,587.81. We're collecting from taxation. Our total taxation is $6,146,938, and that's just the municipal portion only. And then we have our amount raised from the base rate, which everyone shares in, $4,438,670, and $1,701,343 raised from area rating, and $6,925 raised from our flat rate streetlights, and water and sewer has no effect on the tax rate because they're fully funded by user fees. So just to elaborate a little bit further on the special area rates on the next slide. And so in Wingham, we had a total area rating of 1,335,623, and that's made up of the 2 items, the police and the street lighting. And in Blythe, we have also the OPP police and the street lighting. And in East Wawanosh, we have the just the OPP policing. Now, the BIA levies require council approval, and they're attached to the bylaw in the bylaw section. And again, Wingham's total budget was 55,600, and their levy is 28,500. And Blythe, their total budget is 15,400, and their levy is 9,700. So again, moving on to the next slide. This is a budget summary, and it compares the amounts raised by taxation for 2020 to the 2019 year, and it shows the increase of our 2.97%. So it's kind of a handy sheet to be able to summarize how those amounts compare by department, function by function from year over year to 2020 to 2019. So moving on to the operating versus capital. Our operating is day-to-day spending, including salaries, wages, benefits, utilities, maintenance of equipment and buildings and such. And our total operating is $14,103,293.81. Capital then, capital items have to be amortized, and that usually covers items that have more than 5 years of a useful life. And so again, it covers things like roads, bridges, wastewater, assets, facilities, and land improvements. And so our total capital budget this year is $3,666,294. So when we take a look at the next slide, look at our operating versus capital, some of the changes we're seeing this year to get to our $177,351, which is the amount that we are raising extra over last year. Some of those changes include transfers from our modernization reserve, but the big change comes in water and sewer capital. So in 2019, we had budgeted for $383,000 in water and sewer capital. And because of all the projects underway in 2020, we're budgeting $1,482,361. So over $1 million more in capital projects in water and sewer, which is affected by user fees, but it creates a variance between our operating and capital year over year. And in the past, we hadn't spent that much money on water and sewer capital projects, but we've been saving and planning for the standpipe project. And then, of course, Sean has a couple of large water and sewer projects, which we'll go over with the next slide. So the next slide shows us the 2020 capital. And so, as you know, we had planned for the road reconstruction on Carling Terrace, and that's Cornon to Diagonal. That project is worth $1.6 million. And of course, as we've said at the outlet, we're going to evaluate our priorities, what needs done for 2020, and move forward with, things that only really have to be done. On our rural roads, we plan to do some surface treatment on Moncrief Road for $95,000. There's some security work that needs to be done at the house and dam for $20,000. There is the Wingham sidewalks connecting link for $14,000. Blythe Parking Initiative, which includes 3 pieces: sidewalks, paving, and street lights, for $25,000. There was a pickup truck for a 4-wheel drive 1-ton with blocks at $75,000, and 2 pickup trucks, one for Public Works and one for Rec, with a total of the 2 for $64,000. We need to replace boilers number 5 and 6 at the complex for $35,000. Work done on the condenser at the complex at $80,000. Replacing some of the cycle equipment at the fitness center for $20,000. To deal with some of the
Donna, just for a sec, I would just like to remind council anytime they can speak up and ask questions. So this is your budget, so don't be afraid to speak up, Nick, because Dawn and I won't see your hand. So sorry, Donna, didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead, and please, stop me if you have a question anywhere along the line, for sure. So to carry on with the rest of the capital items, we have some roof leaks at the Blythe Arena we want to take care of for 30,000. There's some work to be done at Town Hall, some of the carpet at the chambers and some exterior painting. The painting is about 15,000 and the carpeting is 8,500. But again, projects like those, we'll certainly be putting them on hold until further notice. We have the standpipe design at 75,000. The SCADA system for Wingham Well at 75,000. We have the engineering for Hutton Heights at 97,000. Facility air exchanger 15,264. The dechlorination project for Blythe wastewater, I believe. Sean, I'm not sure if you're there. I think that's at Blythe wastewater, 400,000, and recreation software at 8,500. So then on the next slide, these are projects that we were going to that needed to be completed for 2019 projects, pardon me, the 2019 projects that need to be completed in 2020. And so we have the fire hall and public works building at 619,000, and the building is almost finished, and it certainly is looking looks like a very well done job. The public works roof leak replacement at 120,000. The top coat on North Street 30,000. The humidity and condensation issue down at the complex, and I think Sean has been working with some engineers and gathering information on how to go about that. Finishing up our cemetery records integration, and that's through the Stone Orchard software. A little bit left to do with the Blythe Hullett CAS procurement. And the Town Hall Theater Group still have a few renovations to finish upstairs, and that may change yet as the year goes on. So our total capital is $3,666,294. And again, we're certainly going to have to monitor all of that as the year goes on. So in the next slide, we show...
Chris, just a second,
Yes.
Chris. Question, did you, Chris?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Yes, through you, Reeve. Donna, you said at the beginning of the capital expenditures that you're gonna perhaps prioritize. In a perfect world, as we started this process, yeah, all these things were a good go, potentially. But, you know, now you said prioritize, so what procedure do you have in mind to pick and choose, and at what point would that happen?
So in speaking with the department heads, they have the best information on what projects, all the projects are needed, or they wouldn't have been in the budget in the first place. It's just that now with the situation that we have, we've got to figure out how to mitigate for the entire rest of this year and probably into 2021 on what we need to do. So for, but as we were saying, any projects and tenders and that sort of thing, we're going to bring them forward to council and have council discuss them and rate the merits of whether we do continue with them now or hold them off for a few months or hold them off, you know, until next year. So certainly some other things we can do is a lot of the tenders are out, and we could possibly speak to the winning bidder, if you will, and maybe make arrangements that most times in a tender they hold their price for say 30 days. But because of the extenuating circumstances, you know, we could maybe try things like speaking to the successful bidder and asking if they would hold their price for 120 days or things like that. So there's certainly, as the department heads work through the numbers and their projects, we're certainly cognizant that we're going to have to try to you hold things off. Wait till, as I said, another month or two. We hope to know more about what's happening. As I said, in the colleagues that I've been working with, they said, basically don't make any rash decisions for 3 months. So, we're certainly going by day, and we'll bring any information we can forward to council. So it's kind of a long dragging on answer, but I'm trying to give you assurances.
I'm just going to follow up that too, with some comments that these major projects have to come before a council. And if this coronavirus continues to travel down the road, we do have the ability to say no. At the last county meeting, there was a proposal to try a new way of fixing the roads, and I can't remember, it was a 1.3 or $1.7 million project. The county did turn it down. And one of the excuses we used, and Mike, the guy that was presenting it, said, I understand with the coronavirus that we may need this money for other things. So we have many options. This is not, nothing is written in stone. We can change it with the wave of a pen, so to speak. I will let Donna continue. Anyone else have questions? Will Donna's speak up? Not hearing any, Donna?
Okay, so we'll carry on to the where does the money go slide. So as you know, a portion of the taxes that we raise stay in North Huron, and that's 64.14%. We send 23.72%, and that equates to $2,270,000 over to the county. And we send 12.14%, which equates to $1,162,000 to the various school boards. And then of that, the municipal portion, 55.46 comes from the Wingham ward, 17.58% is raised out of the Blythe ward, and 26.96% is raised out of the East Wawanosh ward for this year. So moving on to the next slide. So what I'm trying to show with these slides is that this particular residential property is actually located in Wingham. And so, and its assessment last year was $202,000, and it's now up to $205,000. But what I wanted to show you is what if this property, because we have our area rates and because the assessments vary so much property to property, what I was trying to illustrate by these next few slides is the effect if this property was located in Wingham, what would happen to it? If it was in Blythe, what would happen to it? And if it was in East Wawanosh, what would happen to it? So as I said, the area rating and the assessment increases impact each property differently. And as I said, I'm trying to show you a comparison. So last year, Blythe and East Wawanosh saw some benefit because of how much we had cut out of the budget in efforts to reduce the base rate because of the costs for the Wingham ward transferring to the OPP. So some Wingham properties this year will definitely see some relief, but it varies property by property. And just to give you an example of that, the Wingham area rating is down by $315,882. $298,000 of that is lower police costs, because as you know, last year we had all those capital costs, and there's street lighting is down by about $17,000, and the Blythe street lighting is also down slightly. Now, a change that we do have, which affects East Wawanosh area rate, it's up slightly. In the past, we've allocated some of our OMPF funding towards the East Wawanosh ward, and due to the decrease, as you know, our OMPF funding, we took quite a cut this year of $71,000. So that calculation wasn't done this year. So it does make a bit of an impact on the East Wawanosh ward to level that out. So I'm going to go through these examples, and again, on this portion is just the municipal portion. So in Wingham, we have this property we'll see a decrease of $104.07. So if you look to the bottom half of the chart, our budget increase would have shown this property to have a decrease of $136.38, but because the assessment went up to lower that decrease, so this property now ends up with a decrease of $104.07 on the municipal portion. Next slide will show you how it affects the total when you add in the county and the school board. So if this particular property was in Blythe, it's going to go up $136.46. $111.38 at the bottom of the chart would be because of our budget increase. $25.09 would be because of the assessment increase, and that's what makes up the total of the $136.46. And then moving over to East Wawanosh, this property, this house, if it was in East Wawanosh, it would go up $142.11 because of the budget, $22.38 because of the assessment, for a total of $164.49. So when we flip to the next slide and see what the total will be, though, as the county and the education, when you factor those in, that helps to bring the overall totals down. So this particular property then will see a total decrease of, for Wingham Ward, $121.18. If this property was in Blythe, it would see an increase of $119.35. And if it was in East Wawanosh, it would be $147.37. So that's a residential property. And I have a commercial property and a farm property. And I want to go through those with you on the same ideas. So to say, okay, if this commercial property, it was in Wingham, what would happen to it? What would happen to it if it was in Blythe? And what would happen to it if it was in East Wawanosh? So this particular property, this commercial property, the assessment went up $9,750. And so at the bottom of the chart there, the total decrease for this property is $464. With the way our budget turned out, it would have actually had a decrease of $618, but because the assessment went up $154, that meant the net decrease is $464. So, but in Blythe and East Wawanosh, they would be increases. And in Blythe, the increase would be $624.29, and our budget would have accounted for $504 of that, and the assessment $119. And East Wawanosh, the budget would have accounted for $643.98, and the assessment of $106.67, to make a total of $750.65. But if we go on to the next page and see what that total equates to when we add in the county and the school board. So this property would see, if it's in Wingham, which it is, it would see a decrease of $774.86. Blythe would have an increase of $313.44, and East Wawanosh $439.80. So that's the impacts, comparing as close as we can the same property in each of the three wards.
Kevin, did you have a question? Yeah, I think he's trying to unmute.
Thank you, through you, Reeve. Donna, seeing that these are estimates for this year's budget, with the school year being cut in half since they were out since March, and it doesn't look like they're going to go back, will that change our our levy?
Our education levy?
Yes.
At this time, there hasn't been any move on that. What they have done is delayed our payment. So we had to make our March payment to the school boards, and then they have a schedule where The June payment is going to be delayed, and then we'll end up having to make 2 payments in December. So the payments haven't been reduced. It's just that they've been delayed somewhat. So again, I think it's too early to tell, whether the education ministry will be able to make any adjustments like that or not. So at this point, the answer to your question is no. There's not going to be any adjustments that we know of today.
Just a comment, Rafe.
Go ahead.
To Donna and to everybody. At this point, teachers are still working. It doesn't appear to be, but they're developing e-learning courses. And I guess not all the boards, but I think they'll all jump onto it. And they're making it free for use for the students who wish to, which is kind of, it is what it is. So yeah, I have a teacher friend. We got to keep going this way if we want to get a paycheck. So I know that it's happening.
Good, thank you.
Well, if it's any help for you guys, the teachers that don't work too much, my wife's still up at the school working on this.
Yes. Okay, and so we'll move on to the last one, which is a farm property. And as I said, that now this property that you're seeing is a different property than we talked about back in the earlier meetings. So this property didn't have any additions to it or anything like that. So my note is still showing from the last meeting there. But this property did see quite a significant assessment increase, 92,750. So we'll go through the scenarios as to how that would affect this property if it was in each of the 3 wards. So if this property was in Wingham, which it isn't because Wingham doesn't have any farmland properties of that would certainly be of this significance in the Wingham ward. But the budget would have allowed for a decrease in the Wingham ward for this property of $128.12, but the assessment went up so much that the assessment increase was $333. So then that would mean, again, if this property was in Wingham, it would go up $204.89. Now, the same for Blythe. This property, the budget would have put it up $104, but the assessment increase put it up $258 for a total of $363. And then in East Wawanosh, the budget would have put this farm property up $133, but the assessment put it up $230 for the total of $364.11. So when we move to the next page and look at the totals, again, if this property was in Wingham, this farm property, it would end up with an increase of $317.38. And Blythe, if it was in Blythe, it'd be $475.65. This property is in East Wawanosh, so it would go up $476.60. And as I said, we went through how the assessment impacted this particular property. So
Just to
Go ahead, Chris.
yeah, it's so disturbing to see that 16% increase. I can't wait to have my phone ringing, or Anita as well, having our phones ringing off the hook over this one. Like, how do you sell this? I know you can look at those earlier slides, and yeah, the farmer doesn't care about some of that stuff, most of that stuff. He knows that East Wawanosh is paying, 28% of our budget, and we receive, I don't know, 300, Sean can help me there, but $300,000 worth of, grader work, truck work. And, this is a tough one. And yes, we've been told that residential has carried it before and residential will carry it in the future. But land prices have gone, I'm just going to say it's stupid. For those that are still farming, stupid. for 14 years almost, and it's getting worse. And so that increase has been a tremendous shot in the arm to add to our tax base. And, the poor souls out there, they know it, they feel it, they're not making any money. This is going to be a tough year anyways.
For sure.
They might be asking for help. So, and it's not going to change. Residential will stay where it is for a long time yet, unless the economy just starts flying again. But anyways, it's really sad.
Yes, for sure. The assessment increases, as you said, for farmland have continually moved upward for the last many years, and it certainly makes it difficult for the farmers who keep their property and don't sell it and want to maintain a business in their community. So we're certainly well aware of the challenges that they face on a day-to-day basis, for sure. So thank you for those comments. So if we move on to, we're coming to an end here. So just some other items to talk about. We have the completion of the new fire hall and public works building, the completion of the water and sewer master plan. And again, that was under a grant program. So we are winding that program down. Hospital donation, we have the last payment of $50,000 this year, and the funds can be redirected in 2021. And there's many places for that to go. Memorial Hall renovation, we're still paying our contribution towards that project. We have the rec master plan was part of the strategic plan. So depending on how things go out, we can finish out for the year. Hopefully later in the year, we can undertake that project. The Economic Development Committee are doing a great job. They're focusing on development and trying to, make things happen around the community and the area that are going to be a benefit to us all. I always just like to make sure that about what the cost of the total wages, 28.88% of our whole budget. Our total wage and benefits for our municipality is $5,131,253, and our total hydro bill for the year is $652,343. So
Great.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Just curious, Donna, what was the percentage last year? Was it 25%?
I actually don't have that with me tonight, but I certainly can email you that that number. There would be some differences with the policing costs changing from when they were our employees over to the contract, but I made a note here to email you that. I can email that percentage out to council. Okay. And then if we move on to the debt, our debt obligations, we do have external debt and we do have internal debt. And so as you know, in January of this year, we were able to pay off the EST loan because of the sale of that property. So that was a great news for us. It leaves our total debt owing at $676,000, but I mentioned to you those three other internal borrowings: the truck, the streetlights, and the landfill compactor that we've borrowed from internally as well. So as soon as some of these projects come up, we have one of them coming up in 2021. I think it's the roads project that would be paid off. So again, some of these funds can be redirected. As we all know, there's many places to redirect the funds to. So for 2021, we'll be able to move forward on reallocating some of those.
On those you've got, like when you've got 10 years, 15 years, is that remaining or is that the duration of the entire?
Yes, that was the duration. That was the total length of the loan.
So I just wanted all the counselors to take a good look at that one. So as we move forward, we keep in mind that when we make a decision, 10 years from now or 8 years from now, what effect it has on somebody's budget. So we want to be careful of our debt load. We're almost $750,000, and some of these have going on 15 years. I'm not sure when the duration period is, but I know the fire payouts have been around, I think, since I was in grade school. So just a thought for you guys.
Okay, and as we move forward, the last slide then, so our focus on the future, we all are going to have to work together and work very hard in 2020 to be able to manage and mitigate and to take whatever action we need to as we move along, to be able to overcome, our huge challenges this year, and to hit the ground running when we can get back on track, as we move towards 2021. So I just wanted to thank council and staff. Some of this has been a new process for us, and I think we're working our way through it. And again, I wanted to just go back to the two proposed motions that we had. The one was the motion that was included in the agenda report, and then the second one that Carson read for you. So if council is in a position that we can pass those two motions and pass the bylaw, which is later on in the agenda, then we would be able to move forward with our 2020 plans such as they are today. So is there any questions from council?
Reeve?
Yes, Donna.
And then Anita, Chris, and then
May I
Anita.
speak?
Go ahead.
Oh, ladies first.
Okay. Thank you. Going into this meeting, I was really, really concerned about spending. I'm glad the senior management added the second bylaw and evaluate priorities so that we can do that together. I think we totally have to keep in mind that we have to turn every penny twice, spend taxes wisely, and we can't do anything else. We have to spend money, but we still have to spend it really wisely. And I'm glad for the added bylaw. Thank you.
Okay. No worries.
Christopher?
Yeah, I guess if you wouldn't mind, Donna, explaining the fire payouts, because that's a beast. And does that mean that there's two more, or does that get cut? That 800,000 get cut in half at this point?
So in 2009, when the fire boards dissolved, North Huron had to buy out all the fire partners. And so we had appraisals done, etc. And of course, North Huron owned a portion of the each piece of equipment and trucks and vehicles, etc. as well. So this $838,000 was the amount that was left that we had to actually borrow for a 15-year term in order to be able to pay out our partners, in order to own that equipment. So as I said, the balance now is $428,262. So we are working away on it, but it is going to be a few more years before we have that paid off. And to some extent, some of the equipment is definitely going to be, by the time we get this loan paid off, the equipment's going to have to be replaced, of course, too. So definitely, as I said, we've been paying on that since 2009. 2009 is when the boards dissolved.
Partnership that died.
Yeah. Any other questions from council?
Yes.
Go ahead. I believe that's Trevor. Yep. Go ahead, Trev.
Donna, can you elaborate or just let me know or let council know that, like, the budget presentation from our last meeting was then put on the website. And obviously, COVID-19 or the coronavirus has taken a front seat to a lot of information that has been presented by not only us but every municipality in the province. What have we heard from any ratepayers as it relates to the budget, other than what might have come through council comments tonight?
I haven't received any comments on it from the postings on the websites, and we also advertised it in the newspapers as well. And so again, I hadn't had anybody call me, but certainly if people do have questions, then do direct them to me if they want further explanations as to what's in the budget and why it's there and those types of things. So I certainly would be happy to answer any questions. As you say, maybe people with so much going on, they maybe haven't asked their questions just because of what's been happening. But we certainly will be, keeping things updated on the website, and we send out, the flyers and newsletters and things as with the final billing. But having said that, we're a few months away from that, and who knows what may happen by then.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, Reeve, through you, Reeve. Donna, we received a note from Mr. Simpson.
Yes, I'm not, and so today we had some comments come in from a concerned citizen, wanting to know what things we could do to alleviate some of our some of the burden on the ratepayers. And as I said, I think Dwayne corresponded with the ratepayer and explained how, as of today, we've laid off about 74 staff, and we're going to be having, reduced grass cutting, and I think Dwayne was saying about the not having flower baskets, and now, as I said, we've had these conversations tonight about taking every measures that we can, but I can't reiterate enough. It's too soon to tell what all these impacts are and how we're going to have to act. There's definitely going to be things that have to be done, and we have some ideas for sure. But to make any sort of wide sweeping decisions based on today, I don't feel that that's responsible on our part at this moment.
I'm just going to follow up a bit with that because obviously I was a bit of that conversation and I know Murray quite well. So did come up with some pretty good ideas, and I've had conversations with the staff since then, and this kind of brought on the idea of the bigger projects we have, we don't have to follow through with them, and some of the smaller projects, Anita and I had a conversation earlier, that they need to be, and the staff has agreed to bring them before council. And as you've said, Donna, Dwayne's already taken action on cutting on a lot of things that we just aren't going to have. We're not going to have flowers on the main street this year. We don't know where this coronavirus is going to lead us, but by leaving everything in the budget, we now have a cushion. If you were to strip the budget because of a future we don't know, and all of a sudden 3 weeks from now, everything goes back to normal, you don't have a budget. By leaving everything in the budget, and as we move forward, if things become hard, now we've got a cushion that we can help our ratepayers out with. That's where I kind of mentioned, again, one of Murray's ideas is, do we really need to put money in a 20-year fund for the water when right now it's really not feasible for the people that are paying for it? Those conversations, as Dawn is saying, we're going to have as we move forward. Right now is a little too soon to do the famous Bernie Bailey knee jerk reaction. We're not going to do that. We're going to hold on. We're going to have conversations as council staff as we move forward, and we're going to keep in touch with everyone and let them know what we're doing, because we have made some major moves already. Unfortunately, a lot of the North Huron didn't understand or didn't realize what we've already done in order to cushion as we go along. But the last thing you want to do is empty the piggy bank today, because we're actually not in bad shape today, but you want to be ready for 6 months from now. So I won't go on any further with that. Maybe Dwayne or Sean or myself might speak to it later, but just so you guys know, that's all why things are taking place. And I appreciate everybody that emailed me, called me, and talked to me, and it's working out good. Sorry, go ahead, Donna.
No, thank you, Reeve. I think that unless there's any further questions,
Yes, Donna? Paul's,
Paul, yep. Go-
through you, Reeve. The fire hall, it's 619. Is that with the sand shed in there with that?
yes, that includes, we've estimated about $250,000 for the sand shed in that.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, 8.2.1, I do not believe I have a mover yet.
Through your worship. So if you want, I can read the motions again for council. And then if you want to get a mover, because there's two of them that Donna mentioned. So the first motion on the floor is that the council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the 2020 budget report from the Director of Finance dated April 6, 2020 for information purposes. And further, that the council of the Township of North Huron adopts the 2020 budget as presented. And further, that the council of the Township of North Huron adopts the Wingham BIA budget in the amount of $55,600 with a levy of $28,500, and the Blythe BIA budget in the amount of $15,400 with a levy of $9,700. And further, that the council of the Township of North Huron adopts the minimum levy for the Blythe BIA in the amount of $171.13 and a maximum levy of $399.25, both of which will be adjusted annually by the Ontario Consumer Price Index as published by Statistics Canada for the immediately preceding calendar year. And further, that the cost of living allowance and applicable grid movements be retroactive to January 1st, 2020. And further, that council deems the adoption of bylaw 31-2020 being a bylaw for the purposes of levying and collecting rates for various purposes to be a time-sensitive matter, and approves an exception to section 19.1 of the procedure bylaw to allow bylaw 31-2020 to be passed at the April 6th regular council meeting.
Thank you, Carson. Do I have a mover?
I'll move that.
Was Rick?
Kevin.
Yeah, sorry, Kevin. Seconder?
Oh, sorry.
Rick seconds it. Kindly.
Okay, so this will be a recorded vote. So Deputy Reeve Sipe,
Yes.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson, Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that vote carries 7. And so the second motion on the floor is that the council of the Township of North Huron, subsequent to the passing of the 2020 budget and in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, direct staff to 1, mitigate the impacts to the 2020 budget wherever possible, 2, evaluate and prioritize purchases and projects to be completed in 2020, and 3, implement increased monitoring of year-to-date numbers.
Do I have a mover?
I'll move that.
I have Anita and I have Chris seconding. And we'll do the vote, the call now, Carson.
So Councillor Falconer, Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson, Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney, Deputy Reeve Sipe,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that vote carries 7-0.
Thank you kindly. Next on the agenda is 8.3.1 Recreation Community Services. And Vicky, would you like to speak to that one first?
Vicky, you're muted right now.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right, thank you, Your Worship. The report before you this evening is in regards to the replacement of the 5th and 6th boilers at the North Huron West Cass Community Complex. As you may recall from some of the other reports that you've seen from me in the last 6 months, the main mechanical components of the North Huron West Cass facility are nearing the end of their lifespan and require replacement. A few years ago, in anticipation of the replacement of the various mechanical components, staff had begun to implement a replacement plan. And one component of the plan addressed the need to replace the boilers at the complex. The North Huron West Cass facility requires 6 boilers to support the air and water temperatures of the overall facility. The plan was to replace 1 boiler per year over a 6-year term, and it was anticipated that this project would be completed in 2020. To date, 4 of the 6 boilers have been replaced. The 2 remaining boilers are boiler number 5 and boiler number 6. The 5th and 6th boilers, as I refer to them, provide the hot water to the aquatic center / fitness center change rooms, as well as the arena dressing rooms. Although staff had budgeted to replace the 5th boiler in 2019, you may recall the project was postponed until 2020 to allow for the reallocation of funds if needed for that emergency replacement of one of the compressors for the Dectron at the aquatic center. Fortunately, the cost of the emergency replacement did not exceed the amount budgeted for emergency repairs, and therefore the full funds are available for 2020. In January, Council approved a recommendation to undertake the project in 2020, which would include both boilers, as the 2020 proposed budget had included the 6th boiler in the budget overall. Staff have obtained quote for the supply and installation of 2 high-efficiency boilers for the complex. The estimated cost of the project is $33,800 plus HST. In accordance with the requirements of the North Huron procurement policy and previous practice with the replacement of the other boilers, staff are recommending the purchase and installation be undertaken, utilizing the single source purchasing method of procurement. Under Section 20A of the North Huron procurement policy, single source purchasing can be used if the supplier can meet any of the conditions listed. The supplier, in this case, can meet 3 of those conditions. 1, they're the only known supplier who can meet the technical specifications or has the required experience and expertise to provide the goods and/or services. 2, same existing equipment is in use and will be utilized for spare parts, inventory, and continuation of previous service. And 3, to provide flexibility with existing or like equipment, material, and/or supplies. The proposed contractor for the project is Cliffs Plumbing and Heating. Cliffs Plumbing and Heating is an experienced local qualified contractor with intimate knowledge of the mechanical workings of the complex. They currently service all of the boilers, heating and air units, the Dectron components, etc., and have been doing so since the construction of the facility. They were also the contractor that was commissioned to replace the other 4 boilers recently at the complex. It is staff's opinion that they meet all the criteria identified for the single source procurement and that the method being proposed is in compliance with the procurement policy. The project will require hot water to the affected areas to be shut off. During normal operations, this would require the facility to cease public operations for 3 days. To ensure there is no impact on future operations, staff are seeking council's authorization to proceed with the replacement of the 5th and 6th boilers while the facility is currently closed. The cost of the project forms part of the 2020 budget.
Thank you, Vicki. I'm going to ask for a mover.
Paul.
Paul moves. Seconder.
Chris,
Chris seconds. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have Carson read off the motion, and then we're going to have a conversation before we vote.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the motion on the floor is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the report prepared by the Director of Recreation and Community Services dated April 6, 2020 regarding the North Huron West Cass Community Complex boiler replacement project for informational purposes. And further, that Council supports the replacement of the 5th and 6th boilers at the North Huron West Cass Community Complex using the single source procurement method of the Township's procurement policy, Section 20A, and further that Council authorizes Cliffs Plumbing and Heating to replace the 5th and 6th boilers at the North Huron West Cass Community Complex at an estimated cost of $33,800 plus HST.
Thank Thank you, Carson. Questions, comments, or concerns?
Through you, Reeve.
Kevin, go ahead.
I'm not sure whether this would go, who's going to answer this, whether it be Sean or not. We're replacing 5 and 6, and 1, 2, and 3, 4 were replaced earlier, and the fact that it has to be shut down in order to change out these other two gives me the idea that they're all interconnected. I was just wondering if there was any redundancy built into the system so that the boilers could be cycled in order to give them longer life, where in times when only 2 or 3 boilers are required as capacity for the building, that they're not just using the 4 now to carry because 5 and 6 need to be replaced and they get wore out earlier, where if you recycle them all through, they all kind of share the burden. I just wonder if that was taken into consideration.
Is there staff out there that can answer that?
Through you, Rick Bailey, I'll do the best I can since the other 4 were replaced before I arrived. But they each have their own specified area that they service. So they don't really, in answer to Councillor Faulkner's question, they don't really work together. They each serve their own purpose. In this particular situation, though, the 5th and 6th boilers, you may recall I talked about them in a previous report being stacked, and they work together just for the change rooms and the dressing rooms, providing that water supply and the air temperatures.
So then the whole building doesn't have to be shut off, as you mentioned there.
Through you, Your Worship, in terms of when you have recreational use, like in terms of, we could still continue to have rentals that do not require showers and use of those facilities. But in terms of the pool would definitely have to be closed because it is a health requirement that people have a shower before they actually go into the water, and that they shower when they come back out. Fitness participants tend to want to shower after they've been working out as well.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Last chance, because I can't see anybody, so speak up. Oh, I can see half you. Okay, guys, I'm not hearing anybody speaking up. I'm going to call the motion. Carson's going to call it.
So that will be a recorded vote. So Councillor Hepper,
Yes.
Councillor Van Henderson, Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney, Deputy Reeve Sype,
Yes.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that vote carries 7-0.
Thank you kindly. We have no public works, no fire department, no building department, or child department reports today because there's very little activity. We're happy with that in the fire department. Let's go on to 8.8 CAO. Wayne, I believe you'd like to speak to this one.
Thanks, Your Worship. So at the March 16th regular meeting, Council received with regret Sean McGee, the Director of Public Works' retirement, and directed for the preparation of a report to address that vacancy. So this report is seeking Council's direction as to how you wish to proceed to address the vacancy. Just to give you a little bit of background in terms of different approaches, back in 2017, there was a consultant, in particular, NG Belchamber Associates were retained for the recruitment of the CAO and then shortly after the Director of Public Works. At that time, the consultant indicated that the market is more dispersed than the CAOs, and candidates with both technical and managerial skills are less common, and subsequently recommended at that time in terms of that the advertisement be done quite broadly. In comparison, in 2018-2019, Council directed and we proceeded with, the hiring of a clerk, health and safety coordinator, as well as the Director of Recreation and Community Services position. Those positions were filled through a municipally-led hiring process. So at that time, we did not retain a consultant to undertake that hiring process. Excuse me. The panel for both of those positions included the CAO, as well as an external expert in the field. And for the Director of Recreation and Community Services position, the interview panel also consisted of an acting Director of Recreation and Community Services. And for the Clerk Health and Safety Coordinator position, the Reeve and the Deputy Reeve were part of that interview panel. So what we have before you tonight basically is 4 options for council to consider regarding the Director of Public Works and Facility position. I'll explain the 5 and then touch on each of them briefly. So in terms of option 1, council could decide not to fill the position. They could declare it vacant after August 31st. Secondly, they could explore a shared servicing arrangement with another municipality. They could consider sourcing third-party providers to fill the vacancy. 4th is to retain a consultant to recruit a Director of Public Works and Facilities. And 5th is to direct the CAO to commence with a municipally-led hiring process. So touching on each of those briefly, in terms of not filling the position, declaring it vacant, the position is an integral part of the senior management team. And as council is aware, that we recently did some restructuring between Public Works and Recreation. And that restructuring was done on the basis of the existence of that position. So if council decided not to fill the position and declare it vacant, there would need to be some restructuring and evaluation of existing job duties and responsibilities in order to fill the void. In 2015, North Huron entered into a shared servicing arrangement with the municipality Morris Turnberry, and that shared arrangement involved Public Works. The arrangement was dissolved in early 2017 by both North Huron and Morris Turnberry. Since that time, shared servicing arrangements have continued for building services, and in 2018, we entered into a 2-year pilot project with the municipality of Huron East for the sharing of fire chief services. So the point that I just want to make is that North Huron is familiar with a shared servicing arrangement. But I think it's important to note that since dissolving the shared service arrangement with municipalities Morris Turnberry, the Director of Public Works has spent a considerable amount of time restructuring and strengthening our Public Works department. And the response from the staff in Public Works has been positive. And so for this reason, it's suggested that North Huron, or that we maintain our separate Director of Public Works services at this time. Third option is to source third-party providers to fill the vacancy. Through a combination of 2 or possibly 3 consultants, the duties and responsibilities of the Director of Public Works position could be contracted out. It's not known at this time whether this approach would have a positive or negative financial impact. Just on the downside, though, I think it's important to note that this approach may result in lack of continuity of service, and in-person meetings and discussions are less likely. It's also suggested that we would lose internal expertise of our own Public Works operations. The 4th option is to retain a consultant to recruit a Director of Public Works and Facility. As noted, a consultant was retained in 2017 to fill the vacancy. If council wished to hire a consultant to undertake the recruitment process, it's recommended that council authorize the CAO to solicit a minimum of 3 price quotes and award the work with an upset limit of $20,000. The estimated range for consulting services of this scope is anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000. In terms of the 5th option, which is to direct the CAO to commence a municipally-led hiring process, similar to the recruitment for the Clerk, Health and Safety Coordinator, and the Director of Recreation and Community Services, council could authorize and direct to undertake a municipally led recruitment process. If council was desirous of this report, the CAO would make efforts in light of the COVID-19 situation to have some discussions with the Public Works staff regarding the skills and the leadership qualities that they require. As well, and similar to past practices, the CIO would solicit an external Public Works manager or director to be part of the recruitment process. Huron County's Human Resource Department may also be willing to assist and or lead the recruitment process on behalf of the municipality. At this point, discussions have not taken place with the county's Human Resource Department pending direction from council. I think it's just important to note that as council is aware, the province has declared the state of emergency. The declaration orders issued have had a significant impact both locally, nationally, and internationally. Regardless of the approach chosen, the success of the recruitment process, we don't know what the outcome is going to be at this time. We may have individuals who may be seeking new employment opportunities. Alternatively, may have individuals in the market who simply may wish to continue or return to a familiar work environment after the COVID-19 situation. Until job ads is issued, it's unknown whether a level of interest in the position exists. If authorized, it is suggested, however, that the job ad include the range of pay for the position, as well as a statement advising that this position has been determined to be an essential position of the municipality. So just to summarize, in terms of from a staff's perspective, it's recommended that the Director of Public Works position be filled. It's also recommended that a municipally led recruitment process be undertaken, or if council so wishes, a consultant be retained to lead the recruitment on behalf of the municipality. If council authorized the recruitment process and to be done internally, your costs be limited to advertising, which are estimated around $2,500 to $3,000. If council wishes to retain a consultant, the estimated costs again would be in the $15,000 to $20,000 range. And the cost of the recruiting for the director would be taken from the working reserves, and the 2020 budget would need to be amended to include the expense. Any questions?
Thank you, Dwayne. I'm going to throw it out to council for questions, concerns, or comments.
Yeah, is there any, this is Anita, is there anybody internally that would be available for this job or desirous of this job that you're aware of?
Yes, through your worship, we are aware of interest. We'd have to go through the actual hiring process, determine the qualifications in terms of the candidate or candidates for the position.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Kevin.
Through you, Reeve. Yeah, I would like to see it just thrown out generally to first by advertising before we go require a consultant. It's my opinion that there were some good qualified individuals that had worked for the municipality prior to amalgamation or prior to shared services that were no longer working for us anymore, that might be interested in using their skill set, that were highly qualified and could possibly be a good fit. So I'd rather see it advertised locally first, and then if that doesn't satisfy the requirements for the job, then it be posted, or then it be taken out to a consultant.
Anyone else? Just speak up because I'm just scrolling here, but your pictures aren't coming up.
Bernie?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's Chris. Yeah, through you, Reeve. This is a vital position, and I'm afraid Sean has left his mark, or leaving his mark, and that's what we need, just like him. So it's going to be a hard one to fill. But I agree with Kevin that we should try as local as possible, like within. When I say within, I don't just mean within our staff, but done by within. And I'm hoping that there be a good advertising set out there. Plus, does the government offer a site that can be used?
I'll send that one back to Dwayne.
Through you, your worship, there are some technical organizations that do assist and do have job boards that the position could be posted with.
I just don't want us to settle. That's my biggest concern.
Anyone else?
Reeve Bailey.
Go ahead, Trevor.
So So I would always propose to have a municipally led function of hiring, whether it be it's signed for internal purposes as well as external purposes at the same time. In 2017, obviously that wasn't able to happen in the sense we were hiring both a CAO and a director of public works at the same time, in essence, very short order. So, in order to make sure that you have somebody available, I think it's always in the right mind to have, the CAO be able to choose their senior management team, and I completely support that initiative. The senior management role position is always going to be difficult to fill, in the sense that if you have had a good one in where we have had Sean, everything's going to be compared to that. And, I don't think settling is not the answer. It's whether you get a good fit in the organization as well as the requirements that we need to ensure that long-standing, long-term capital planning and that stuff becomes a priority. And I think that's where Sean, I think the one part of it, is as long as we can get somebody hired and we have Sean available, I think the best we can have is that we haven't had it in the past where we haven't had to be able to have mutual, pull tie off, like sign off, where we have one that can kind of help the process and understand where usually we've had the person gone and then we're trying to hire. So if we can have a transition plan with the new hire, I'm hoping that that's something that can happen. If that is the case, then I think we're only going to get a better sense of where we are at the end of the day.
Whoever it is, go ahead.
Through you, Reeve. I like number 5 there with the CO and municipally led. And with the county, I think we have time that we could maybe find that. And I know it's going to be a hard shoe to fill after looking at what the qualifications are, but I'm for going with number 5. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to throw my 2 cents worth in then. I'm 100% for number 5. I think we should advertise it through the different locations as well as internally at one time, not go internally and then go outside. I would do it all at once. I didn't see Sean smile there, and we said we're going to hold him back to help a little bit. But oh, there you are. We got a smile now. But anyway, yeah, I agree with number 5 too. And if somebody wants to put a motion forward, I think we're all pretty well in agreement that number 5 is the way we'll go. So if you have a motion you could present, Carson, for us to.
Yep. So through your worship, the motion on the floor is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the report of the CAO dated April 6, 2020 regarding the Director of Public Works recruitment, and further that Council authorizes and directs the CAO to commence a municipally led recruitment process.
Do I have a mover? I have Paul. I have a seconder.
Chris?
Last chance for comments. Anyone? Hearing none, go ahead, Carson.
So this will be a recorded vote. So Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sype,
Trev, you're muted.
Reeve Sype,
Muted again, Trev.
Yes.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson, and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that vote carries 7-0.
Thank you kindly, everyone. 9.1, we're going to go to the Emmerich Gas, and I believe Dwayne is going to speak to this one. Yes, Dwayne's going to speak to this one.
Sorry, thanks, Your Worship. So Enbridge Gas is basically making an application to do a natural gas expansion program or project in Auburn. And as you are familiar with, Auburn actually is within 3 municipalities, Asheville, Colborne, Wawanosh, Central Huron, and North Huron. And Enbridge Gas is looking for letters of support from those 3 respective municipalities to submit in support of their project for Auburn. So there's a motion there for council's consideration.
Thank you kindly. You want to read the motion, Carson, and then I'll ask for a mover.
Yep, so the motion on the floor is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby supports the expansion of the natural gas project to Auburn project, and further that the Reeve be authorized to sign a letter of support for the Auburn project between Asheville, Colborne, Wawanosh, Central Huron, and North Huron for inclusion with the application by Enbridge Gas to the Ontario Energy Board.
Do I have a mover?
Chris?
Paul,
Yes,
and I
Anita.
have Chris. Oh, I got Paul and Chris. Sorry, Anita. We'll do
Okay. So if there's no questions, I'll conduct a recorded vote, I guess. So Councillor McBurney, Deputy Reeve Sipe,
Yes.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson, Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that vote carries 7-0.
Thank you kindly. Okay, let's go on to council reports. Number 10, 10.1. Do be myself, I guess, the Reeves activity report. I just want to say that I want to throw a thank you out to the staff for the last month for the efforts you put forward. Even to the point where the Reeve is calling you on a Sunday or emailing you on a Sunday, and you're gracious enough to get back to me on issues that are coming up because of the problem we're having with the covert disease. Anyway, and I also want to thank all the people at North Huron that are stepping forward. The BIAs have been fantastic. Both the Wingham and the Blythe BIA were in constant communications. Also, the Economic Development Board that belongs to us were in constant communications. I know Trevor, myself, and Dwayne and Carson have been almost 4 brothers lately. We've seen so much of each other. But I just want the community to know that we are here, we are working hard, and we are checking off all the boxes. But if there's anything that bothers anyone, please feel free from the community. Please feel free to call your counselor, call the township, or call Trevor or myself and have a conversation. You may think of something that we just have not. We've tried very hard to keep up with everything. And of course, the most important part is everything we do is for the safety of the community. But this is one time where the community has to help themselves. You've got to distance. You've got to wash your hands. You've got to stop going to the parks. You've got to stop walking down the main street. You've really got to pull together for this, because when even the Prime Minister of England, United Kingdom, can't get around after all his talk about he wasn't too concerned with it. Look at the shape he's in. You don't know who it's going to hit next. We've been lucky so far. Let's not count on luck, everybody. Let's do this together. That's it for the Reeves report. Okay, now I'm going to go to council member reports. Does anybody have any reports they'd like to let us know about boards or committees you sit on? Which shouldn't be too much because we don't have any boards or committees right now.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Through you, Reeve. Yeah, the Alice Munro is canceled till 2021, and they may have the authors reading to the school children in the fall, but that's to be determined. And they're continuing with the short story, and they had 184 adults and 79 youths, but that's all done electronically. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Please just speak up. I'm not really seeing anybody put their hands up.
Reeve Bailey.
Yes, go ahead, Trevor.
I did want to let councilors know that there has been lots of discussion, from a BIA's perspective as it relates to electronic meetings and discussions. So that that is a discussion that is being going on, and we're working on, after we've had this meeting and figuring out what the policies need to be in place. So to ensure that later we will be hopefully having a discussion as a council at a future date as it relates to potentially other committee meetings that are done by electronic means. But at this point, it's just best that we stay the course, as Reed Bailey has mentioned a number of times, and keep doing what we can to flatten the curve in this pandemic that we're in.
Thank you, Trevor. Anyone else? Just speak up. Not hearing of anybody. How about comments from members? Was there any council member who would like to make a comment? Not seeing any hands.
Anita.
Yeah, go ahead. Anita, go ahead.
Just a little bit, like it's for everybody. Stay home, be kind, be patient, look after each other. If you need help, please reach out, because so many people don't reach out, and there's help for everybody. So please reach out.
Thank you very kindly. Anyone else? Okay. We're going to move on to the bylaws now. Can I get a mover for bylaw number 31, 2020? Did everybody go away?
Looks like Deputy Reeve Sipes moving it.
And we second. It'll be a recorded vote.
So the motion on the floor is that bylaw 31-2020 being a bylaw to adopt the 2020 municipal budget, and for the purposes of levying and collecting rates for various purposes, and to provide for the payment of taxes, and to provide for penalty and interest, be introduced, read a first, second, third, and final time, signed by the Reeve and clerk, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. So Deputy Reeve Sipe.
Yes.
Councillor Falconer.
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson.
Yes.
Councillor Palmer.
Yes.
Councillor McBurney.
Yes.
Councillor Heffer.
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that vote carries 7-0.
And we have bylaw number 32, 2020. Do I have a mover?
I'll move that.
Kevin, and Kevin's first, seconder, please. I have Paul. It's yours, Carson.
So the motion on the floor is that bylaw 32-2020 be introduced, read a first, second, third, and final time, signed by the Reeve and clerk, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. So Councillor Falconer.
Yes.
Councillor Heffer.
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson.
Yes.
Councillor Palmer.
Yes.
Councillor McBurney.
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sipe.
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that vote carries 7-0.
Thank you. 12.3 bylaw number 34, 2020. Do I have a mover?
Also move.
Chris, I believe, and Anita.
So the motion on the floor is that bylaw 34-2020 be introduced, read a first, second, third, and final time, signed by the Reeve and clerk, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. So Councillor Heffer.
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson. Councillor Palmer.
Yes.
Councillor McBurney.
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sipe.
Yes.
Councillor Falconer.
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that vote carries 7-0.
Thank you. Going on to announcements, the next regular council meeting will be held on Monday, April 20th, 2020 at 6 p.m. through electronic participation unless other notification otherwise. All committee and board meetings remain suspended until further notice. Is there any other business, number 14, from anyone? Not hearing of any. There is no closed session reporting out tonight. And we just have the confirmatory bylaw, the bylaw number 35-2020, being a bylaw of the Township of North Huron to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by the Council of the Township of North Huron on the April 6, 2020 meeting. Do I have a mover? I have Rick. Do I have a seconder? I have Paul seconding. Carson, I'll let you do the roll call.
So, Councilor Palmer,
Yes.
Councilor McBurney, Deputy Reeve Syke,
I have to abstain because of the conflict.
Yep. Councilor Falconer,
Yes.
Councilor Heffer,
Yes.
Councilor Van Henderson, and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that vote carries 6-1, with the one being a conflict of interest.
So adjournment, that the Council of the Township of North Huron agrees there being no further business before council. The meeting hereby adjourns at 8:30. Stay safe, everyone. We will talk again.
So you have to do a vote for that as well, Bernie.
Oh, I forgot to vote in that one? Let's stick around for a while. Okay, go for the vote, Carson.
Has left the meeting.
Do I have a mover?
I'll move that.
Seconder, Paul? Go ahead, Carson.
Okay, so Councilor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Syke,
Yes.
Councilor Falconer,
Yes.
Councilor Heffer,
Yes.
Councilor Van Henderson, Councilor Palmer,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So the motion to adjourn carries 7-0.
Be safe, everyone.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.